listening to IBNX. IBNXradio.com.
Welcome, and thank you guys for joining Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree, and you are watching We Are We Next 595. Thank you so much for tuning in. So tonight, we will actually be talking about a very important topic, and a lot of you guys can actually relate, I'm pretty sure. So to get into the topic, I'll just go ahead and give you the title. It's about depression and how to recognize it. So, along with myself, I do have two guests, and my guests will actually introduce themselves. So, first.
Hi, my name is Tamara D'Anjou Turner. I'm a psychologist in the Atlanta area. I've served as the director of counseling at Georgia Gwinnett College for 5 years before entering private practice for the last 4.5 years. I work with a variety of clients on concerns such as depression, panic disorder, generalized anxiety, OCD, social phobia, as well as helped clients accomplish personal goals such as finishing their dissertation, starting a business, improving their relationships, gaining confidence, increasing motivation, or getting back into the dating world. I can be found on Psychology Today under the name Tamara Turner in Atlanta.
I need her help. She said the dating world. I definitely need your assistance. I will be contacting you. And my next guest.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot.
You got to follow up.
Wow. Maybe I should have went first.
You should have went
first. What I mean? But I am Dennis Shaheed, the swagnificent Latimer, National Step Show host and party MC, a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and currently a house supervisor for the elderly that deal with mental challenges, as well as a mentor for psychologically challenged young adults in society dealing with, as you said, OCD, dealing with schizophrenia, depression, clinical depression, as well as several other mental disorders as they would define them.
Right. Yeah. So we actually have a lot of knowledge in the room this evening. So you guys definitely want to make sure that you are taking notes, paying attention. If you would like to reach out to the show, you can send an email at dearlove@ibnxradio.com. And love is spelled L-U-V, not L-O-V-E. It's DEARLUV at ibnxradio.com. So to get into tonight's topic, I did ask you guys some questions, so we will actually get into that first. When you think of depression, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And we'll start with Dr. Turner.
Well, I would say depression, under the clinical definition, is a period of 2 weeks or more where a person experiences intense sadness or irritability, lack of interest in things, lack of pleasure, in a significant weight gain or weight loss, insomnia or hypersomnia, loss of energy, inability to concentrate, difficulty even making decisions, feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, excessive guilt, or recurrent thoughts of death or suicide.
Okay. And that's a lot of people. That affects a lot of people, I believe, subconsciously. You know, they could be going through a lot of those symptoms and not really pay too much attention to it. Or, you know, we like to sometimes live in denial. So it is very important that we at least are able to acknowledge what depression is. So, Dennis, what would you say? What's yours?
I agree. I mean, that's actually everything I had. The doctor nailed it. As I said, I deal with young people who do have several of these challenges. So what I have noticed is that almost all of the symptoms that you have discussed or stated I've seen in different young people. And let me just say this. It's not relegated to just boys or young men. You have young ladies who are going through the same issues. And from what I have read and recognized, you have 1 of every 15 adults. So these are young people going into adulthood that deal with this issue as well. And then you have 6 of them that are experiencing this almost genetically,
right.
Coming from their family. So their family is already familiar with this issue. And it's affecting a lot of our young people across the United States. And it's and Doc, I don't know if you would agree, it's cross ethnic lines and financial lines and everything else.
Absolutely.
So it's not just relegated to one segment of people. So this is a serious issue that we have to really take a look at now, because just my opinion, some of the unfortunate tragedies of the school shootings that have been happening way too much and too often are coming from and out of situations like this, where young people are depressed, as Doc said, for 2 weeks or more,
Right.
and they're not being heard. The signs are being ignored, even with the school system here in Georgia. They don't seem to pick up on it as early as they should.
Right.
So I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think one of the problems that exists is the decline into depression can be so slow and daily and weekly that sometimes people don't recognize that they feel depressed. And oftentimes people who don't necessarily see that person on a daily basis they're more likely to see the change
Right.
in the person.
Right, right. So when I think of, for example, the youth, the fact that there's a period in them growing where they're going through puberty and the change of hormones, how are we able to identify that period versus them actually going through depression?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed in dealing with the young people, that's most of my core base, the young people. I deal with older people now, but I deal with a lot of high school and junior high school students. I noticed that there's an outcasting thing going on, where certain young people just don't fit in. Like if you look at, unfortunately, Columbine, you're from Connecticut, so you look at the situation, I think, with Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook, you look at, just the various acts of sporadic violence that certain young people are committing, that there seems to be a commonality.
Right.
They're outcasts. They don't fit in. They can't find, a certain group of people to associate with. They have no one to talk to. And these are all very different young people.
Right.
But they all seem to have that going on, unfortunately. So I think it starts with communication, like with everything else.
Right.
If this person comes from a solid home, and I say if, they're coming from a solid home, what's going on? How are you feeling? How was your day?
Right.
What did you learn? What did you do today? Is there anything that was disappointing to you? Open communication is key.
Definitely. Definitely. I agree. Who might be at risk for even developing these symptoms of depression?
Well, as was stated earlier, I think you have had a good point that oftentimes there's a genetic link and there can be a biochemical link. So some of us are just wired differently.
Right.
And so sometimes our brains, we don't have this level of neurotransmitters that need to be there. And so what they've actually shown is in families where you share the same genetics, oftentimes there's a pattern of depression or a pattern of anxiety.
Right.
And so that's why oftentimes if you come into a counselor's office, they'll take a family history so that you can be more aware of your likelihood to develop depression.
Right. Now, the interesting thing when you say you come into a counselor's office is the fact that with our culture, the first time that we're ever going to actually see a counselor is when we're in high school. We tend to avoid any type of mental assistance, any type of help outside of that counselor in your high school. So how would you say families should approach even the idea of seeking, mental, I don't even know what to call it, but just mental health assistance, or you know what I'm saying?
I do. I think that we need to no longer say, I mean, let's be frank about this. You can't say anymore that this is a black thing.
Right.
Or a Spanish thing. Or, an Indian thing, or a Chinese thing, a minority thing. Depression is affecting everybody.
Right.
The times are changing. The climate has changed. The social climate has changed. We're in the age of the internet. We're in the age of IG, Instagram, and Facebook, and social media, the situation I'm dealing with that I spoke to you about earlier, where this kid is being cyberbullied, and Doc, I was alluding to it, but now we have a current situation where this kid created a list of people that he wanted to terminate permanently because of his loneliness and because of the power of social media, which is supposed to be used for good and, as I said earlier, communication, but it's being used to bully, and it's being used to promote fear and negativity, which was not the initial purpose of social media. It's not what it was designed for. So right now, I think we need to, as a people, my people, your people, people of color in general, I think we now have to start to really look at this thing like this is not the 40s or the 70s anymore. We have to look at it like depression is real. Bipolar disorder is real. Anxiety is real. These things are affecting our families. And, when we grew up, it was, no. Let's just put that relative,
Sweep it
Auntie
under the
Jane
rug.
or little cousin, what I'm saying, is Mac in the closet. Can't do that anymore. Because what happens with Mac and Auntie Jane is affecting everybody. So I think awareness is key. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of times, to Dennis's point, the interconnectedness of our communities, now we're more separated than we were before. And a lot of people discount the impact of that face-to-face interaction with people, So oftentimes you'll hear somebody talking about, oh, yeah, I talked with my friend, but they really mean they texted with their friend. And that's not the same as talking on the phone with your friend. And then another level is actually seeing your friend in person. And so people need to know that we are social beings. We are wired to be social. And so even though for some people it may be hard to socialize sometimes, or they may have some anxieties about socializing, the reality is we need it.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Wow, very powerful. Well, what we'll do, because there is an audio clip that one of our listeners did submit, and I feel like it's very appropriate for us to listen to it and just, kind of give feedback on what we hear, because you can listen to it, and you both can have different opinions. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will take a listen to this audio clip. And the audio clip is called "Adulting is Hard as Fuck." And I think we all can relate to it at some point in time.
Agreed.
So right now you guys are watching Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree, and I have Dr. Turner and I have Mr. Dennis, our guest. So we will take a break and we will be right back.
Right.
Energy God.
I have no faith in failure.
Come on, think like a God. Who is that?
I have no faith in failure. Come on, turn the energy up. Come on, let's get it, let's go. I have no faith in failure. Look, you have to think like a God. Think like a God. Come on, let's move it. You see the mountains, let's not climb it. Let's move it. Come on, let's get it. Let's go.
I need your love and your energy. I really don't know what got into me. I think I might have a deficiency. Energy. Must be the hate from the enemies. Lately they treating me differently. Energy. I need your love and your energy. Give me that energy, I gotta get back on the grind. Shading away, know where you blocking the shine. I hate to wait in the line. I heard the energy God and I caught a vibe. I hit his line and he gave me a sign. Stay patient, the dream that you chasing will manifest shortly, little homie, it's all in due time. I gotta do what I gotta do. I set a goal and I'm seeing it through. Ay, I ain't got nothing to lose. One life to live and too much to prove. Ay, I need an energy boost. Ay, don't ever get it confused. Ay, no time to make an excuse. Get your ass up and go put on some shoes. I need good energy in big amounts. Get back the energy you putting out. Energy juice when I walk in the house. I woke up today, so I'm making it count. Get some more money in my bank account. Can sell my soul for a little bit of clout. I prove them wrong whenever they in doubt. I get the energy in and I'm out. I need your love and your energy. I need your love and your energy. Cause lately they treating me differently.
You're alive with the energy, God, each and every. What's today? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, no, it ain't Thursday, it ain't freaking Friday. It's your day. Hey man, get your mindset together. Let's get it. Let's go.
So, hi. I'm gonna call myself the Divine Miss K. And I just want to talk a little briefly about how I've been feeling and what I'm going through currently. I currently feel like I am overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time in life. And what does that mean? Because that sounds crazy, right? To start with. I feel overwhelmed with the daily routine of adulting. I'm stuck in this rut of going to work, coming home, working at a job I don't have a passion for anymore, not making a whole lot of money to begin with, having a lot of debt, a lot of bills, a lot more bills and debt than I'm making money, and just being in this endless cycle of just brokenness and just feeling really low and helpless. So in that aspect, I am overwhelmed. On the flip side, I feel underwhelmed with just my life. I am bored. I don't know how to get unbored. And I know that's not a word, but it makes sense. I don't know very many people here in Atlanta, and I really genuinely do not know how to meet people. And I'm dealing with anxiety I've never dealt with like this before. But at the same time, I'm just bored and just underwhelmed with life. And it's crazy to feel underwhelmed and overwhelmed with the same thing at the same fucking time. And most days I just keep going because I got a routine and I know what I gotta do. And I'm just going through it, getting through it. But other times, it gets to be extremely too much. And I can't control my emotions. Well, I can control my emotions, it's just hard. It's just a lot at times. But then in the midst of my despair, I still feel bored and underwhelmed. I don't feel none of that black girl magic that I'm supposed to be feeling. And I know I have it in me. I just honestly have no idea how to bring it out. And it's crazy. Because this duality of under and overwhelmed seeps into every aspect, and it makes me second guess everything that I do, every word that I say, every action that I make. It has me in a place where I'm always wondering what someone thinks about me, and that is an exhausting and tiring place. It's crazy.
All right, welcome
Like,
back.
on some
Thank
real
you so
shit.
much for joining us. This is Dear Love with your host, Simply Bree, and you are tuned into We Are We, Next 595 on IBNX Radio. And I have two special guests. I have Dr. Turner and I have Mr. Dennis. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you.
And this topic tonight is on depression and how to recognize it. So you just heard one of the audio clips that were submitted from one of the listeners, and the title was Adulting is Hard as Fuck. And I will agree. It definitely can be challenging. Sometimes you want to just crawl inside of your bed and just sleep. So just from listening to the audio clip, what type of even symptoms or impressions stand out to you guys as you listen?
I think she said, like, she was actually voicing a lot of her symptoms. So she mentioned feeling anxious, feeling helpless, feeling like this endless cycle is going on. Even the moments where she described, I'm going through it, as in, like, I'm doing what I need to do.
Right.
The way she described that sounds so sad.
Right.
You know, to go every day and you're just going through the motions,
Right.
you know, that actually is an indicator that you're not finding joy and excitement and happiness in your day-to-day routine. There was one moment where she said that I feel like I'm supposed to have black girl magic.
Right.
And the reason that stood out to me is because it felt like a judgment of herself. Like, instead of just feeling what she was feeling and saying, you know, I just don't have it right now. I'm in a
Right.
down day. We all have our down days. I'm sure she was actually feeling that sadness deeper
Right.
because she was even judging herself for feeling sad.
Right. Right. Dennis?
And the doc and I, we were discussing during the break, the cadence, the pace of her voice. That's one of the main symptoms, you know, the slow, methodic. It almost came across like, okay, like you said, she's doing what she has to do, but she's hopeless within
Right.
the process of doing what she has to do. A lot of younger people and adults, you know, usually when they're feeling like there's no way out, this endless cycle of, I do it, I'm trying to survive, it's not working, but I still got to do it.
Right.
Trying to survive. There tends to be a hopelessness underneath all of that, which lends to their pace. You know, people who are excited and happy, they're going to speak with a little more energy, like how I'm
Right.
speaking to you now,
Right.
like, let's go.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
got you to my right, I got you
Yeah.
to my left. We're talking good. We're, you know, attacking the subject in a productive manner. It's going to be some life to it. Not
Right.
saying she has no life,
Right.
but like you said, there's sadness there. And people who speak, you know, sad, they speak with a slower tone and it's more dragged out. You know, it's more, there's more monotony to it.
Right.
Right.
Because they're really not certain where this is going.
Right.
They're just existing, but they're not living.
Right.
Right.
You see.
She even used the word despair.
Yeah.
She used strong language, despair, lack of passion, stuck in a rut. And she said duality. That was the other word that stood out to me. And oftentimes we have this impression of how we're supposed to be, so we wear a mask all day, you know? And so when you're wearing a mask all day, you actually become out of touch with your own feelings.
Right.
And so then when it comes time that you could actually do something to make yourself feel better, it's hard to do so because you're out of touch.
Right.
You know?
So, in a situation like hers, what are some things that she can do to begin to get herself or even find herself? What can she do?
I would say she mentioned one thing, which is lack of friends.
Yeah.
and lack of knowledge of how to make friends.
Right.
And so with her, I think she may have mentioned she just moved into the city as well.
Yeah, she was.
So that to me stands out as something that's probably really important to her. And so I would suggest that she do some things that she doesn't normally do.
Right.
You know, step out of her box.
That's it.
You know, do some things like meetups or
Yeah.
some things that
Yeah.
kind of like, maybe in the past you haven't had to do those things, but now that you're in a new city, new environment, and you don't have those resources that you may have had in another city, sometimes you have to push yourself a little bit.
Right. The power of friendships. Just being around people who have positive energy will uplift you, period. It's just like when I first moved here, the energy was so powerful. I felt like I have to do something. I have to have a hustle. Like, I can't just work a 9 to 5. Like,
Right.
I have to use my talents. And then when you meet people who have that energy as well, they're like-minded, it encourages you and it pushes you to want to do better things, want to get out and want to meet people and do something that's different and out of your ordinary.
Right.
So what type of advice, or even what kind of things would you say could possibly help her with, you know, cheering up and looking at life a little bit differently?
I mean, you know, you nailed it. You nailed it. I would add, because everything you said was totally, as far as I'm concerned, accurate.
Yes.
But in addition to that, you know, find a hobby. You know, like what you said, and I don't even think you realize you stated it. You know, this is your passion. So
Yes.
you moved on it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
Everybody that I know has some sort of passion for something. You know, some sort of energy for something that they like, that brings them some sort of joy. Albeit maybe temporary, but at least some joy. You know, so mine happens to be this.
Right.
Public speaking,
Right.
you know, or hosting shows. So I found that passion, and even in some dark days for me, because let's be honest, everybody's had dark days.
Right, definitely.
Everybody. So even in my dark days, when the rent wasn't paid, when the light bill was due, you know, because of my passion literally saved me
Right.
during those times, because the shows paid the rent.
Yes.
Do you understand? So what I'm saying is, and that may not be her thing,
Right.
but I'm sure somewhere in there, if you speak to her a little longer, she will eventually, because the nature of people is
Find
to
it.
speak on what they like, something in there will, you know, click off, or you'll be able to hear it and say, hey, well, why don't you try that?
Right.
You know, so in addition to everything you said, you know, definitely get friends, definitely establish a network like you did when you got here.
Right.
Like my man Tone did in the back, but equal, like when he got here. Find something that even if you're not the best at it, everybody
Right.
starts somewhere.
Right.
But
Right.
find something you like
Right.
and pursue it.
Right.
You know, so that is what I would suggest to anybody who is suffering to find themselves during this troubling time for them.
Right. And I also, to add into that, I would say identify what you like
Absolutely.
and understand that just because I like doing podcasts and shows doesn't mean you're going to like doing it.
That's a fact.
And it doesn't mean that if you try it, you're going to be successful, because guess what? Everyone is not successful in everything that they do. You know, we all have our failures and our
Right.
flaws, and, you know, but you have to first know what it is that you like. You can't live someone else's life.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I totally agree with the both of you, you know, and I feel like she is definitely moving into that direction, because I do know her personally. So what we will do, we will take another break shortly, but before we do, quick question that I would ask you guys is, what question can you ask someone in order to help determine if they are indeed going through depression? It's just one question. What would you ask someone?
What would you think?
That's a tough one.
It is.
That's a very, very
It
tough
is,
one.
it is.
I do think intuitively people who are close to someone know when they're going through a depression,
Right.
if they're aware. So, you know, I think I would, if I had to choose one question, the thing I would be concerned about is whether or not suicidal ideation is part of that picture. And if suicidal ideation is part of that picture, I would want to make sure that they get into counseling and that they have some information about the National Suicide Prevention Hotline that they can have on hand if they ever feel overwhelmed.
Definitely. Okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, you got me following Doc here. I mean, come on now.
What she said.
That's basically what it was about. But I have a number for the National Helpline. I think you know the number. 1-800-662-HELP. That's HELP. Again, that's 1-800-662-HELP. That's the number's 4357. So I would suggest that number. There's also the Georgia National Crisis Hotline. I do not have that number on me, but you can, or anybody can Google that information as well. These two hotlines and platforms are set up specifically to help people who are going through it right now.
Right.
You understand? So, my thing is, if you need the help right now, or if you even think that you may need the help or may qualify for the help, then you need to go ahead and make that call. It's totally confidential. Nothing is shared unless there is a right then and there life or death situation, and then, of course, the proper authorities would come and tend to the situation. But that's definitely a number that would help. So for anybody listening right now, once again, that number is 1-800-662-HELP. That's the number's 4357. Go ahead, get the help that you need. Then I would suggest you speak to people like the doc on my left, follow up with her.
Yes.
And what else would you say after that?
I mean, I think if you are supporting somebody who's going through depression, it's important to know that you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
I think sometimes family and friends think that they have to be the one to get them out of the depression. But your support, your encouragement, just your listening ear can be very helpful.
Right.
And referring somebody to a mental health professional or the crisis hotlines can be a way that you don't have to then feel like you're doing it alone.
Right. Okay. I love it. Oh, I love it. You guys are watching Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree. We have Dr. Turner and we have Mr. Dennis. We are going to take a quick break, so please do not go anywhere. You are tuned in to We Are We Next 595.
Maybe it's your hair, or maybe it's the smell you would wear. Maybe it's your touch, the gentle hugs, I miss them so much. I thought we would be friends. I can't move on, I look for you and them. It really hurts within, 'cause now online I see you with him, and I realize I'm not over you. And I realize I'm not over you. And everywhere I go, reminds me of how we were so close, and all these memories in my phone, I'm afraid to delete. But lately I've been searching, wondering if it was worth it. I thought that things would be perfect with you, 'cause I'm slowly sinking, and I like I'm not over you. I'm still not over you. Oh, I'm still not over you. Oh, yeah,
All right, you are back. You're watching Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree. I have my two amazing guests, Dr. Turner and Dennis.
Dr. Turner's the one, yes.
That's why I said her name first.
Right.
You guys are definitely tuned into We Are We Next 595 on IVNX Radio, and the category today is mental health. The topic is depression and how to recognize it. So we were just going through some ways of how do you get out of that rut? What are some things that you can do to improve your situation? So if you missed it, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. So the next question that I do have is what are some factors or triggers that could lead to depression?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like, I got this one.
I got this one because I'm dealing with it. Yeah, I got this one. So, bullying, and I'm going to speak specifically to cyberbullying.
Yes.
You know, I'm from an era where if you had a problem with somebody and it was ongoing, you met up and you handled it however you needed to handle it physically, and you know, the joints, whoever gets rocked out, and that's it.
Whoa.
And
Cash
you
me
shake-
outside.
Right.
Yes.
You shake hands, if you could, male or female, and then you move on.
Right.
You know, I'm from that era.
Yeah.
But these days, because once you commit something to the internet, all it takes is somebody with a phone,
Yep.
like this one, screenshot it, bow, and it's forever.
Yes.
You understand? Fights fade. You know, pride, you know, you can get that back,
Right.
you know, but pride comes before the fall.
Right.
And now what you have now is people's fall snapshotted on social media for
Right.
everybody to see and passed around from person to person to person, from grade to grade to grade. So what I was telling you, and I'll go into it now, is that I have a young man who, because of HIPAA laws, as you know, I cannot reveal his name, who recently has been removed from a very popular high school in one of the counties here in Georgia, and was taken from the high school directly to the jail because he threatened to kill 9 people, including himself and one of his teachers. So what I have here in my phone right now, as I shared what I could
Right.
with you due to HIPAA laws,
Right.
is his quote-unquote manifesto. And Doc, I'll just let you take a quick look at this. You know, you can read over some of it. But this is a young man who's currently in a lot of trouble. You know, he's been to a certain hospital in Georgia, again, Privacy Act.
Right.
You know, 3 times. It is a mental hospital. But all they did was put a patch on it.
Right.
You know, they gave him a couple of medications and let him out in a week. This happened 3 different times. Then he went to another facility, and all they did was recommend him to a day program. So what happens is the kids in band are messing with him. This just happened last week, so
Right.
this is
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah.
You know, the kids in band are messing with him. They won't let him crab the band. That's what I heard the term is down here. They won't. He sits in the lunchroom by himself. All the signs that we discussed
Right.
of being outcast, being lonely, you know, being not embraced.
Right.
So what does he do? He creates that list and writes a couple other things down. And because the school didn't address it earlier, they see that, freak out,
Shut
rightfully
down.
so to an
Right.
extent, shut everything down, send all the parents letters, and now he has to go to court in May. And he may be facing some real time. And he's a good young man. Why? Because I know him personally. You understand? This is not a bad kid. This is a kid who got fed up of being outcasted and fed up of cyberbullying and physical bullying, trying to crab a band.
Right.
Right.
So these things are very real. You understand? I'm sorry if I got a little bit off the
No,
question,
you're
but
good. You're good.
you know, so I think, and let me make sure restate the question, please.
What are
if you
some
would.
factors or triggers that could lead to depression?
Everything I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything I mentioned, and this is a really sad situation, and I don't see this young man getting out of it without doing some time in either an adult prison, because he's 17 and a half. In state of Georgia, he's over 17, so he's going to a big boy jail.
Right.
And this is not a fighting kid.
Right.
Or he's going to be remanded to a mental facility, like such as, Georgia Regional, where he will spend an ample amount of time there.
Yeah.
But it could have been avoided if the school and security and the guidance counselor would have been proactive.
Right.
So that's what leads to this type of situation.
Yeah. It seems like Dennis is speaking to a sense of humiliation.
Right.
Which it's different. Embarrassment is one level, but humiliation is really deep and can take people to dark places. I would say in general, triggers for depression tend to be a sense of loss. So it could be the loss of a job, you know, the loss of a marriage. It could be the loss of a friend. You know, it could even be a move,
Right.
you know, loss of connection. And so oftentimes with depression, there can even be multiple factors that come into it, you know. That's why before when we were talking about the history, somebody's history is really important, right? So it's possible somebody has a history of abuse, a history of neglect, you know, maybe the family dynamics aren't healthy. And so it doesn't even have to be any one thing that's the trigger.
Right.
It could be all of it combined.
Right. Okay. Very nice. The power of influence. Now, we all know that influence itself can make the strongest person do crazy things as well as the weakest person do crazy things. So how do you feel negative influence could contribute towards the spiraling of an individual's mental health, especially if they're going through depression? How do you guys feel that would actually contribute?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's something called contagion, right?
Yeah.
And basically, the way that Mr. Dennis was talking about our thoughts being very powerful,
Right.
the truth is our thoughts can be contagious. And so if you have friends that are pessimistic, negative, aren't going anywhere, or don't have aspirations, goals, those passions that give us life, then oftentimes you can also adopt that sense of thinking,
Right.
Right.
you know?
Right.
You are who you hang around. You really are who you hang around.
It is so true.
You know, and when we grew up, we were taught these values.
Right.
But what you have now is and you said I can be frank, right? You have the crack dealer from the 90s, right, and 80s, and the chick that's turning tricks, you know, screwing whoever, they hooked up. And what you have now is the gang-banging offspring.
Right.
That's what you have now.
Yeah.
The kids that's claiming the set and repping the set because I know them. And I've been around them and been with them. So you have that dynamic. So where do you get that statement from? You are who you hang around.
Right.
They're not even being taught that.
Right. Yeah.
So what we have is a lost generation of kids with no proper parental guidance. They don't have fathers. They have OGs.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So it gets lost in translation because the OGs didn't get it. So how they going to teach it to them? You know, and the ones that got it didn't keep it. They fell to the street. So that's what you have now. You are who you hang around.
Right.
If you're a good kid and you hang around a bunch of gangbangs, those are the active. 12 of y'all on the block. First of all, it can't even be more than 3.
Right.
Because it's considered gang activity. But let's just say you're on the block, right? Whether it's here or in Brooklyn somewhere. 12 of y'all on the block. One kid is the good kid. When the cops come around for that sweep, they're not going to stop to figure out which one is the good
Yeah.
kid. You dudes are all in blue. I'm wearing my fraternity letters.
Yeah.
But these other dudes are wearing other things from blue. It's not going to matter. We're all going.
Right.
We're all going. Because they don't know any better. All they know is all 12 of you are in blue. So you have to, it starts at home. it starts at home. But unfortunately, we're in the age where many of our kids come from broken homes, so it's not
Yes.
being taught there.
Right.
So that's what's missing. But you are definitely who you hang around, for better or for worse. So you need to start reevaluating who you put in your circle.
Right. And that's actually true because a lot of families, a lot of kids now are being raised in single parent households.
That's a fact.
So is it more detrimental for a child to not have a father in the household but have a mother, or not have a mother in the household but have a father? Like which
That's
one is going to create more of a protection, and which one is going to create more of a risk when it comes to depression?
Yeah. I mean, children need safety, they need security, they need role modeling. They need a lot of different things.
Right.
And so I would say if that home is happy and healthy and safe and secure, then the amount of adults in the home isn't as much of a factor.
Right, yeah.
If the parental relationship is really unhealthy and there's the role modeling of violence or the role modeling of neglect or abuse in some way, then that's not a healthy home to raise a
Right.
child in, and that can sometimes lead to this feeling of loss in
Right.
itself.
Right.
But wait, I want to say something. If I don't know, Doc. I don't know. I've agreed with you all the way to this
Okay,
point.
okay, we'll debate it then. We'll debate.
Yeah, but it's I'm not all the way in disagreement. The only part that I think I have a little unreadiness with
Yeah.
is you can't, as a minority, now speaking specifically to us, African American and Latino, you can't even imagine the value of that father being in the home, especially when it's sons.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because the influence that the father has, that's the only thing that's going to outweigh, in most cases, the street influence.
Right.
For me, I had both parents in the home. But when my father started going through his issues with alcoholism due to loss, in this case, a job, where he went to work one day, literally, and the powers that be did not tell him that they were closing the company down. So my father went to work in Manhattan at 54th and 5th. And they were packing, literally,
Okay.
and said, "Oh, we're sorry. You don't have a job anymore." But he had me and my younger brother to raise.
Right.
So loss of job, not being able to find another one because he was 6'3" and brown skin and knew his work very well, so he was considered a threat. And he gets sent away to rehab. I wound up falling to the street. Now that's not every case.
Right. We're actually not in disagreement.
Okay.
We're
Talk
in
to me a little
agreement.
bit.
We're in
Help me
agreement.
put this together.
Yes. So I would say the value of a father is
Immeasurable.
it's documented. It's researched.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% about
Okay.
that. I think it was specifically that question of like father versus mother. Why I answered
Okay,
it the way that I did.
I can accept that. I can accept that readily. You need
Yes,
both.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You need both. You need both,
both.
and that goes to role modeling.
Yes, it does.
And even in your example, if the father and the mother are both they're maybe in different homes, but both are present and both are
Agreed.
happy and both are contributing, then that's going to lead to a very happy child.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah.
I agree with that.
And there's a lot of positive role models that are out there in these programs like Big Brother, Big Sister.
That's right.
So it's really just a matter, if you do have a child and you are a single parent, there are programs in your local area that cater to your specific situation. So it's really just a matter of researching and taking the time to actually find out which one is best for your situation, best for your child.
Right.
And don't give up too, because when I first moved down here, I
Right.
tried to put my son in the Big Brother, Big Sister program, and they didn't have enough Big Brothers.
There's always the Sigma Beta Club at Lambda Sigma House in East Point, Georgia. You are always welcome to come and bring your young man to the Lambda Sigma House at 2526 DeLoe Drive, where the men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated are molding minds and changing lives one young man at a time. Shameless plug, I know.
Did you guys just catch the plug? You caught the plug, right? Tell me you caught it. Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take another break. And when we come back, we will continue to discuss depression and how to recognize it. You are tuned in to Dear Love on We Are We Next 595 IBNX Radio. We'll be right back.
Damn, boy, going crazy. Stack De Niro, raise the bar, mash the pedal, race the car, escape the ghetto, say the bad, change the arrow, no turning back. I'ma be propped up at the DoubleTree, don't want call no company, keep shit for the luxury, I'm in love with me, ain't it puzzling? How they switch up on you publicly, never had time for the fuckery, decide though who they gonna see, in the summary. Why you wait? What you wait? Who you wait? What you wait for? Why you wait? Who you wait? Why you wait? What you wait? No. What you wait? Why you wait? Why wait? Who you wait? No. Why wait? Who you wait? Why you wait? What you wait? No. Tell her look down, leave me alone. I got one way round for me at home. Soon as I sound the key alarm, I got 40 more miles to eat, I'm gone. Even your eyes gon' see it wrong. You gotta open your mind and string along. Talking to the world on speakerphone, they wanna spit in my vibe to be this strong. Shame the devil, praise the Lord, ram the metal, word the dog, book the travel, pack the bag, move the famo, no coming back. I'ma be the opposite of the mess. Nothing else, no, I'ma be about action. Get a bit, don't really need no calcium. I be living with some shit you can imagine. Little bit, but never really kick asses. I'm a king, I get a hand to a brass. Legendary with the mic like Jackson. Won't slip, my lip zip like the jacket. I know it really fucked you up when I ain't have it. Told myself to never give up, remain daddy. Go attract what you want, become a magnet. It really gotta make sense for me to chance it. After you shoot your shot, show me your average. Tryna turn an apartment into a palace. Tryna fit a dimension into a planet. Tell her down, leave me alone. I got one way round for me at home. Soon as I sound the key alarm, I got 40 more miles to eat, I'm gone. Even your eyes gon' see it wrong. You gotta open your mind and string along. Talking to the world on speakerphone, they wanna spit in my vibe to be this strong. Why you wait? What you wait? Who you wait? What you wait for? Why you wait? Who you wait? Why you wait? What you wait? No. What you wait? Why you wait? Why wait? Who you wait? No. Why wait? Who you wait? Why you wait? What you wait? No. Tell me why you wait? Leave me alone. I got one way round for me at home. Soon as I sound the key alarm, I got 40 more miles to eat, I'm gone. Even your eyes gon' see it wrong. You gotta open your mind and string along. Talking to the world on speakerphone, they wanna spit in my vibe to be this strong.
get to know your name. Last day I found you, greatest gift of my life. 'Cause you bring me blue skies. 'Cause you bring me blue skies. And now I see love clearly. I gave up, I clocked out, I thought it was over until you came, baby. And you showed me true love. And baby, I'm thankful, so thankful to have you in my life, baby. 'Cause you give me clarity, oh. Last day I found you, greatest gift of my life. 'Cause you bring me blue skies. 'Cause you bring me blue skies. And now I see love. 'Cause you bring me blue skies. Blue skies. And now I see love clearly.
Welcome back. You have tuned into Dear Love with your host, Simply Bree, and I have my wonderful guest, Dr. Turner and Mr. Dennis. I keep calling you Mr. Dennis like you old or something.
It's all good. The
I
people,
started calling him Mr. Dennis.
yeah, all my kids call me Mr. Dennis. All of them. But my family knows me as Shaheed. That actually is my real middle name and part of my stage name. So you people out there that are watching, that's Bree. She's the best. That's Dr. Tucker. She's the best and an expert.
You called her Dr. Tucker. It's
not
Turner.
correct. Turner, excuse me.
You tried to change your whole last name.
But she's still the best. She's still the best. And they know me, Shaheed, so shout out all my cousins and everybody else.
Yes, you guys are definitely tuned in to We Are We Next 595 with IBNX Radio. And so we're going to switch it up a little bit for you guys. So we are still discussing mental health and depression, but what I want to talk about now is the fact that how do you find balance when you have a passion, something that you do that you just love, and you want that to be your financial income, your horse and carriage, but you also have a 9-to-5. So what are some ways to find that balance where you're actually happy doing both? Whoever wants to go first. You point to the doctor.
Okay.
I want to make sure I said the name right. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say that's a very, very good question. One of the things I would say is that you have to have a lot of energy to be an entrepreneur, right? So it's important to be very realistic about what it takes to get the job done. And oftentimes you can be happy even in the things you don't love when you recognize what they serve.
Right.
So like the 9-to-5 job serves you in being able to do your passion,
Right.
And a lot of times people don't recognize that, and so even if you're able to do your passion only on the weekends or 4 hours a week, whatever it is, that 9-to-5 is actually going to get you to the place where over time it'll take up more hours, your passion will take up more hours, and slowly you'll be able to exit the 9-to-5.
Right. And that's the goal. Like if that's what you want, if you want to be that entrepreneur and work for yourself, then that should be the goal. It doesn't mean that you just have to quit your 9-to-5 and you got like 3 kids at home and car payment and a note and rent. No, you set that long-term goal up and you work towards it. So
absolutely. And I would say you're gonna have to sacrifice.
right.
There's no way you can do this without some sort of sacrifice. And it will be time. It will be time consuming. You will have tired nights. You will have some setbacks.
Yes.
You will have some triumphs.
Yes.
But as Doc was alluding to, if you stick with it, if you stick with the regimen and make sure you do not lose the focus factor that your job, at least from what I heard, funds your dream.
Yes.
Not the other way around. No. It will never work that way. Your job, I've been in this business hosting since as I think I was telling you, 1999 professionally. And I have taken some major losses.
Right.
And if it wasn't for that 9 to 5, then I'd have been ruined out here. So although I've worked very hard to build my brand and to build my fan base nationwide and in Canada as well, you know, it did not come easy. But the one thing I made sure that I kept is a job, because your job funds your dream.
Right.
To the point where, as you were alluding to, your dream now maybe can,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
replace the
Right.
job. But you cannot do that until all your ducks in a row.
Right.
And you got to be ready
Yeah.
to lose some sleep, because you're gonna.
Yeah.
You're
gonna lose some
definitely
sleep.
gonna.
Yeah. I would say if you accept the fact that you will have those down moments and those setbacks, the setbacks don't feel as bad.
Right.
Because you just know it's part of the process.
Right.
And it's easier to just roll with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally would. I'm tired right now, to be honest with you. Like,
But you're here.
I'm here. I'm excited. Like,
That's right.
Like, I looked forward to this day forever, guys.
Let them know again what show we on.
So, yes, Dear Love. This is Dear
That's what I'm
Love.
talking about.
See how we plugging. So, you know, my goal, my dream has always been to be a radio show host. Like, I always say, I'm going to be on somebody's radio. Like, I don't know who, but I'm going to be on somebody's radio. And, you know, it took time in finding the right resources, talking to the right people, coming across the right apps to, you know, start from a podcast. I started Dear Love as a podcast, and it went from going from the podcast to reaching out to the beautiful CEO, Miss Latricia Clark of IBNX Radio, to, you know, going ahead and doing interviews. I'm also host on a show called The Girls Who Brunch Instagram Takeover. That's every other Sunday. I do interviews there. And then I went from that to starting another show, which is a branch off of Dear Love, and it's called The Truth Serum, and that's every Tuesday on Instagram. And now I'm on another show, which is every Wednesday, called Basement Conversations.
Wow.
And I'm tired. And I go to school part-time, and I have a 9 to 5, and I have a 13-year-old son.
How about that?
So it's definitely possible. It's all about you and your grind and your drive, if this is something that you really want to do. So to say that you have to quit your 9 to 5 in order to pursue your dream, that's false living. Like Dr. Turner said, your 9 to 5 is funding
That's right.
your dream. And I'm not going to say how mine is funding my dream, but it's funding your dream. So when you think about your passion and what it is that you want to do, how does the people in your circle,
I was just about to go there.
how does the people in your circle, how does their role play a factor in you pursuing your dream?
You have to have like-minded individuals who share your vision, who share your goals, and who also, and this one's important, they don't speak about it much, share your strategy with which to get it done. You see, it's fine having vision and goals, but if there is no methodology in place, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, or the steps used in order to get it done, and if everybody's not on the same page, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So you have to find yourself in, like we said earlier, the right circles with like-minded people who are all forward thinking and moving the same way towards that common goal.
Right.
Your network is everything
Yes.
in business, especially when you're trying to be an independently owned operation. Your network is everything. And then you got to check them out too.
Yes.
Because you may have a good network, you know, or a good business in and of yourself.
Yeah.
But the person who you're bringing in may not have such a kosher name
Right.
in that community of which you're trying to be a part of. So you got to make sure they're on point and that their reputation is sound. I had seen something on TV. I think you guys have probably all seen it, just a commercial, reputation.com or something like that. It's actually a...
What?
Yeah, there is a website. Yeah,
Wait,
there's a
I read it.
website that you can look into or boost your own business reputation. Yeah.
Oh.
And then, see, I learned certain things from that community.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because that community stays winning.
Right.
So
yeah.
I want to learn the best of what they got going on, incorporate it to what I got going on.
Right.
And then bring my people in and work it the way we would.
Right.
Yeah.
You understand? That's the strategy.
Yeah.
But you got to have a network. You can't do it by yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and then just say it helps to also have people who are ahead of you in where you're trying to go. It helps you not to have to reinvent the wheel, have to figure stuff out on your own,
Right.
problem solve, you know, so it saves time
Yeah.
and energy
Yeah.
when you have somebody who can guide you along that process.
Right. So what do you think about, you know how people say, oh, when you're actually doing something and you're growing and you're becoming more successful, oh, don't forget about the little people. Don't forget about the people back home. If the people back home are not supporting you, is it okay to forget about them?
Ooh,
I just want to know.
that's a hood question.
I just want to know.
That's a
I was gonna say, that's
day
a
one
loaded question.
Yeah. As Doc would say, it's a loaded question, but that's a...
I mean, because I know that there's good, and the way that I look at it is there's good and there's bad in the people who don't support you. They're an inspiration by not supporting you because they're encouraging you to go even harder. But if they do support you, then you're appreciative of them supporting you. But if, I mean, is it okay to leave somebody back there?
Well, I think, you know, over time, our circle changes. It's just the reality of life. The idea that we would stay with the same group of friends over a 70-year life is just unrealistic.
Yeah.
And so that person, if somebody's actually feeling hurt by the fact that you've kind of developed and grown,
outgrown them.
Yeah, I would say that maybe there's something else going on with them in that moment, you know, that actually has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Because most people would understand and be happy and be proud of your success.
Right.
Yeah, jealousy plays a role.
Yes.
But you have to move forward. You know, what I say to other people regarding that type of question is, if your growth process as an individual is what it should be, you will naturally, by default, which is what you're alluding to, have to leave some people behind.
Right.
You can't bring everybody with you.
Right.
You can't, as much as you would want to. You know, I had 7 friends in Lefrak, you know, in Lefrak City, Queens, very close to all of them, you know, but there were some of them, 2 or 3 of them, that just didn't see the vision. One of them couldn't even see moving out of the community, you know? So my thing is, it's where you're at, and at some point you have to decide to let go and grow.
Right.
So that I think that's the best way that I can put it, is to let go and grow. You know, if they want to be successful as well, then they'll meet you there. Now, you don't turn your back, you don't be dismissive, and you don't be, you know, negative and look down on them. You don't, because they come from where you come from.
Peasant.
And and they were with you when you had nothing.
Right, exactly.
But, you know, just like you ate those $2.50 hero sandwiches, you know, at some point you're going to want to eat steak.
Yeah.
You know, and if they don't want to eat steak with you, so be it.
Right.
But don't forget that you ate $2.50 heroes with them.
Right.
That's where I'm coming from with.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Okay. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go into a break.
See the action pose?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yes.
You guys are watching Dear Love with Simply Bree and my 2 guests, Dr. Turner and Mr. Shaheed.
Yeah, Shaheed. Me.
Now he's trying to correct me. Shaheed.
That's all good.
We'll be back, guys. Thank you.
Yes, man.
Some shade about it was ugly. You mad about it, can't be mad at me. You know the problem is you seeming too invested in it. You getting hung up, what's up, why you questioning it? You looking like this talking turn and you on way I'm fucking you up like you love it. I'm up on my every step, bet you heard something about it. Fire pit, you keep dancing around me. So the dick put a copyright on it. You lost without it, I don't doubt it. I've been on my hot shit lately, can't be mad at me. You've been on some fuck shit lately, keep that distance, please. Yeah, so if you're thinking get through you, but let me have a go at it. You out here looking like you can't get enough. Way I'm fucking you up like you want it. I'm up on my every step, bet you heard something about it. Fire pit, you keep dancing around me. So the dick put a copyright on it. You lost without it, I don't doubt it. I've been on my hot shit lately, can't be mad at me. You've been on some fuck shit lately, keep that distance, please. Yeah, so if you're thinking there's a problem, we could settle it. Say you don't get it, but two days you just can't get with it. I've been on my hot shit lately, can't be mad at me. What's up? How you feeling about it? What's up? Got some shit about it. What's up? You mad about it? Can't be mad at me. What's up?
Thank you so much for coming back. Welcome. This is Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree. You are tuned in to We Are We Next 595 with IBNX Radio, and I have my two guests, Dr. Turner, Mr. Dennis, because I messed up your name last time.
It is all good. We're happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you guys here. And we are talking about, the topic is depression, mental health, if I get the words out. But we want to actually try to look at a more positive, put a more positive spin on it. So let's just go random. As a child, what was the most memorable, positive experience that you can recall?
Now, I need to ask you a question first before I answer that. Are we speaking with regards to my parents and I and my immediate nucleus family, which is father, mother, and my brother? I didn't have a sister.
Okay.
Or are we talking about individually overall?
Individually.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of good moments.
Yeah.
Playing Carnegie Hall. You know, I played the trombone as a child. I was always into music.
Right.
My Nana won the Apollo 3 times.
Really?
Oh,
Wow. Wait a minute.
My cousin, three
Right?
times. My cousin had a record deal under Eric B. Brett Lover. My other cousin had a single out with Poet and Hot Day from Queensbridge, John Goodwin. So I've always, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, sung with the Grayson Sisters, a famous gospel group. So I've always been involved in music. You know, your career most often chooses you, you know, as opposed to the other way around. So as a trombonist and as a person who played 3 instruments in band, you know, and being so young, you don't get more of a highlight in New York City and probably world around than playing Carnegie Hall. It says you're the best of the best, and that you have mastered your craft and that you belong to be here. So when you think of all the greats that have touched that stage, even though you're not an adult yet, just to be able to say, I've been on it's the equivalent of a comedian finally reaching the Apollo.
Gotcha.
For musicians and true musicianship, Carnegie Hall's everything.
Right. Wow. Big moment of pride,
Big moment of pride for me. So
I would have still been high off of that moment.
I still am.
Yeah, see? There you go. See? Okay. Dr. Turner.
I think my moment is completely different.
Oh, good.
I grew up in Decatur, Georgia. I did go to New York for college, though, Columbia. And my moment is just riding my bike down this long hill that we had, racing down where you don't have to pedal anymore, and you're just like feeling the wind. And then we would go zip down the hill, and we had so much momentum, we would zip right up another big hill.
Wow.
And it was just really nice because when I think of my childhood, a lot of kids don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
You know, just go outside and play.
Right.
There was like a 1 mile loop, and we would go around the entire mile, which means we were very far away from home when we were on the other side of the loop. We would even go behind people's houses and go into their creek in their backyard Kids can't do that anymore, you know.
Good luck.
Not at all.
Good luck.
But I mean, it probably goes to what we're talking about with like the being outdoors, exercising, being with your friends, you know, just being like free.
Right, definitely.
You have to have those moments. Your childhood is sacred because you don't get another one.
Nope.
You know, you get those special memories that are embedded in your psyche that you reach back for in troubling times to get you through. You know, you have to have a good moment, a couple of good moments. And childhood is designed by nature of you being a child for good moments. So I think that's just very important.
It's definitely. My memory, my moment would be, I remember when my stepfather was alive, he had a motorcycle. It was a Yamaha, and it was a cruiser. And he used to always take me riding on this motorcycle, ride, and I had my little sunglasses on, getting hit in the face with bugs and stuff, because we lived in the country in North Carolina. And I just get hit in the face with the bugs, but it didn't matter because I was on the motorcycle with my dad.
That's right.
And then, as an adult, I actually got a motorcycle.
Cool.
And it didn't dawn on me until the day that I, learned how to ride. I was riding the Yamaha.
Wow.
And it was like, wait a minute. I used to always ride on the Yamaha, So it was just, it's like a aha moment. Like, you just smile to yourself and reflect. And it's just like, things were meant to be like this. Okay. So, yes, that was my good moment. So, let's talk about, relationships. Yes, because that can actually play a role in depression. So, how would you say a relationship, and it can be any type of relationship, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, it can be a relationship between family. Let's use the relationship between families. How important would you say the bond is when it comes to, siblings, parents, and the role that it plays with the mental health? Like, if you don't have a good relationship with your mother or your father, how could that possibly affect you overall as a person?
Yeah.
Look, he looks right to you.
Oh.
Mine is loaded.
You don't want to take this one?
Well, I mean, children crave attention, right? It's the way that they learn that relationship with their parents is a way of learning and understanding themselves.
Right.
So if the environment is invalidating, so invalidating means like if a kid says, I am so sad, and they're crying, and the kid is told, don't be sad.
Yeah.
Perk up.
Yes.
It becomes invalidating where that child not only loses that bond that he can be anyway with his family members, it means that he feels bad about just being himself.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree. Oh,
well, here you go.
I mean, that's a serious question.
Yes.
When the structure and the bond isn't what it should. No, let me go the other way with it. When it is what it is supposed to be, you have those children that will shoot for the stars,
right,
and grab them and make it because the support system is in place. You understand?
Right.
Good memories, good childhood. Of course, you have your little spats with your siblings here and there, but this child is going to make it, and the child usually does. And salute and hooray for them. Right. Absolutely, all of them. You know what I mean? We want excellence in our kids, no matter what color, no matter what race. We want our kids to shoot for the stars and grab them, right? However, what happens is when that bond is not in place. I'm going to focus a little more on siblings and sibling rivalry. When you have siblings competing for the attention of the father, stepfather, or father figure,
right,
or the mother, stepmother, or mother figure, and it is not acknowledged or it is not received properly, then you have the kid feeling a sense of abandonment.
Right.
When abandonment, and I think you might agree, when abandonment comes into play, all the negative influences can come in. because abandonment is where the bad people say, well, come with us if they don't want you.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
We'll accept you. We understand. We too come from abandonment.
Right.
You see? And again, that is what's going on today.
Right.
You have a whole bunch of abandoned kids that have sought that bond and that relationship in people who are really not for their best interests.
Right.
But they have to grow and learn.
Yeah.
And you might find this interesting in terms of adult relationships. The type of attachment that you have with your parents tends to be the type of attachment you create with partners and friends later in life.
Nice.
So if your parents were dismissive, inconsistent, not really there for you, you couldn't trust them, you tend to gravitate towards people who elicit those same feelings in adulthood.
Wow. So how can we, when it comes to children, what can we do to help encourage them to be themselves and motivate them and push them and show them that we love them? What are some things that we can exhibit to them? Even if it's not physical or it's not verbal, it's just emotionally or mentally, how can we create that support for them and they actually are aware of it?
Counseling, dare I say, mentorship, like what you were alluding to earlier, mentioning earlier, and also look what month this is. Your first show is in Black History Month. You understand? That's no coincidence. At least I don't think so.
Right.
So what I did was take a trip to the African History Center. I forget the location, but anybody can look it up. Tons of positivity for kids to see. That all of the achievements and the struggle and the progress that we as a people have been through to get them their basic rights to be all that they can be, loaded in that museum. Very good museum. And I suggest for any family, that they should take their kids to see positive examples.
Right.
Because you're not going to see that in the hood.
No.
You're not going to see it. So what you do is you take your kid to say, hey, son, hey, daughter, this aspect, the successful aspect of our society does exist. We do achieve. We can achieve. We have leaders. We have scientists, mathematicians. We're not just shooting hoop.
Right.
And we're not just
football.
It's not just rap and music or R&B and sports. There are other things to us, architects, engineers, So we have people who have accomplished amazing things. But if your child doesn't know it, it is your job to make sure that he or she knows that you too can be this. You too can be Martin Luther King. You too can be whoever you would like to be, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. You too can be these historical figures if you put your mind to it and you want to achieve.
Right.
So.
I would add to that by just saying also just be really present with your children. Oftentimes we do have a lot of things that are pulling us different ways, the dishes, the job, all of that stuff. And, those things do need to be managed. But at the time when you're actually with your child, be with your child.
Right.
So don't be on your phone or thinking about something else where your child can kind of tell you're not really there.
Right.
Really, kids can pick up on that very strongly, and if you actually lean into it, children actually tend to be stress relievers in the fact that they kind of are lighter, they're in the moment, so it can help you too to just be in the moment with your child.
Right, I definitely agree with that. And like you said, spending time with your child and not having your phone with you and because that's going to, if anything, discourage them from even wanting to spend time with you, wanting to open up with you. So is it more challenging for the parents who have multiple children in close in age, being able to give them all that type of attention, the same equal amount of attention and love and caring? Does it become more challenging based on how many?
I mean, I would say absolutely it's more of a challenge, but there's ways of getting around that. it's not about the amount of time that you spend with your child, but the fact that when you do, the child feels important and that you're really engaged, you know. So at times, there are times in your child's life where you actually may need to do one-on-ones with your child, you know. Like I know some parents who, one mother, she takes a vacation with her oldest son only every year, you know, or you could just take a walk, you know, with your child. Or if your child is going through something, that would be the moment to really engage and acknowledge them and the fact that they need a little bit more attention at that time, and that's okay.
Wow.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Agreed. Just agreed. Okay. Yes. All right. Well, what we'll do is we will take another break, and when we come back, we will pick up the conversation. You guys are tuned into Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree, and you are on We Are We Next 595. It's a long day, guys. 595. We'll be right back.
After the fight, you're going to go after it. You're not going to wait for the fight to come to you no more. You're going to go after it, right? When I was growing up, it was a long, long time ago, but when we used to fight, we used to get in a circle. We'd get in a circle. And then two people would get in the middle. And then you'd fight, right? And I got smart, because I didn't really like to fight. So I got smart. And I started telling guys who said they wanted to fight me, I'd say, look, let's do this. Let's not fight in front of nobody. If you really want to fight, let's go in the back, just me and you. Like, I don't know why you clowning in front of everybody, why you got to try to be the big man. Let's just, me and you, go to the back, and let's just fight, and don't nobody if you really want to fight. And I learned, if you want to get out of fights in the D, the more you run, the more they're going to want to fight you. But the more you step up and say, yo, so I'm telling you in life, you start running from a class, you start running from a subject that you don't like, it will haunt you for the rest of your natural life. It ain't going nowhere. But if you go after the fight, if you approach the challenge, you have a much better chance of winning. Yeah, those of you who are, you're like those dogs. You have the potential. You could possibly take him down. You kind of, like, I think I can get him. I'm not sure. I think I can. And then you watch the pit bull come. When the pit bull came, notice it was the dogs hitting the back. They get the tail. They going on the side. They coming front. When the pit bull came, he just came right, boom. Boom, came right to the face. Boom. And so I'm challenging you before you leave. It's going to be a fight. You can't keep doing this for maybe your freshman year, maybe your sophomore year, but at some point, you got to go take the life out of it. At some point, you just got to, took me 12 years to get the 4-year degree. And in the master's, I was like, and somebody said, get the PhD. And I was like, no. And it was like, come on, E, get the PhD. And when I just started going after life and taking it by its throat, not getting some of y'all get to the line. They got to the dogs got to the wild boar. They got to, you get real close. The pit bulls was like end game. They started with the end game. There wasn't no going back and forth. They came in, boom, and all that time he was standing up. All that time he was chasing. But when the pit bull came and boom, locked down. You got to take that thing out, like you got to take the breath out. So some of y'all are afraid of math. Go after it. Go get it. Don't run from it no more. Go get it. You go in there and go get that grade. You go in there and get that information so you can pass that class. You ain't got the money to go to school. You go write those letters and you go knock on those doors. Don't be scared. You need this degree. Go knock on those doors. Go get that scholarship. Don't be scared to ask. Knock on the door. Knock. Seek. Come on, ask. And it's going to be given to you. You got to go get it. So this is what I want y'all to do.
Welcome back to Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree, and I have my wonderful guest, Dr. Turner, and
Mr. Dennis.
And you guys are tuned in to We Are We Next 595 on IBNX Radio. And so we've been having some really deep conversations, y'all, and you are right there, so you're right in the seat with us. Let's talk about motivation and going after what it is that you want. So when you are in this rut, but you know that you don't want to be there, how do you step out? How do you strike up the courage? How do you, outside of course, hanging with positive friends, but like we said, identifying what you like. Okay, so once you've established what it is that you like, how do you actually go out there and do it? Especially if you're new to the area. Like, what resources would you recommend that they try?
I think my first answer would be there's a therapy called behavioral activation. Okay. So that's the nerdy term for what I'm about to describe. But basically, like you get momentum, the more you move and the more you do, the more you get momentum for other things as well. So like behavioral activation, that would mean actually, starting an exercise program or creating some type of devotional or daily routine that inspires you. And the more you do that, or what Mr. Dennis was saying, which is like speaking into existence what you want. The more you do that, the more things actually come to you as well. So oftentimes you have to give what you want to receive in that way. So like for me, an example was there was a period where I wanted to do more speaking engagements, and so I started telling people, and then I got speaking engagements.
Put it out there.
Put it out in the universe.
Exactly.
Okay.
I agree. I'm going to go back a little bit to go forward. I 100% agree with everything you just said. I think that before you do that, though, you have to see it. You understand? So I'm going to say that just a shout out to all the positive sisters everywhere. Because I learned this from black women specifically. I learned this specifically from you guys. Vision board.
Yes.
I had no idea how powerful the vision board was. The men we're taught just write a note and just stick it on the wall.
Right.
Yes and no. Because that note's in plain ink and, it's on a sticky and it's not that big.
Right.
It doesn't really resonate.
Right.
You understand? But when it's on a vision board that's as big as that logo on the wall, you have no choice but to see it.
Right.
You want a boat? Put it on the board.
Yeah.
You want speaking engagements? Put an auditorium with somebody in silhouette speaking.
Right.
You want to run a bookstore? Put it up there.
Yeah, it gets into your psyche.
It gets into your psyche because every day, not only you envision it, you're looking at it. So you're reminded every day that this is your goal.
Right.
This is what you want. So I totally agree with you, but I think
That's a good
before
one.
you, absolutely, I think before you move on it, you have to actually see that vision.
Right.
And then seek out proper help to make it happen, to bring it to fruition.
Right.
So that's what I would suggest for everybody listening.
Yeah.
All you guys out that is listening to this wonderful show, please set up a vision board, then speak to people who on the vision board can help manifest your dreams in that manner.
Right. I think also, once you discover what it is that you like or what your passion is or what your vision is, attend events that are catering towards that specific thing.
Excellent point.
If you are interested in real estate, get on Eventbrite and look up real estate events because they're all in your area. They're all over. And if you want to travel, look up real estate events in another state and you go there because now you're doing two things. You're interested in traveling, so you're conquering that, and then you're also attending a real estate event. You're conquering that as well. So it's putting you outside of your box. Another thing is also surrounding yourself with people who are doing what it is that you want to do.
Like-minded individuals.
Yes, exactly. Right. Because when those energies come together, it's like a natural high 24/7. Yes, I know I love to talk. I love podcasting. And I am surrounded with individuals who are just like that. And like I said, I have the show. It's called The Basement Conversations. Everyone is four of us. Each of us have our own show. So we just basically came together and just created something with all of us, and it's the energy is just like you just sit there and you feel like you're just having a conversation with someone. Right. You just have an audience. But I think that definitely putting yourself out there, Eventbrite, Meetups is a really good resource to find like-minded people. And then you were saying with the vision board works, But also, your sticky notes work too, because you can write words of affirmations
They
up
do.
there.
Right.
And you just plaster them all over the place. You know, put them in the car, put them in the bathroom, put them on the mirror. You know,
Right.
I think there's so many different things that you can actually do that's going to help focus on getting out of that form of depression. So, I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
So now how, because of course everyone is not successful, how do we deal with pursuing our dream goal and there being failure? How do you deal with failure? Do you get up and you try again? Or do you just allow it to be the end of the world even though you're still living? So how would you, either one of you, how do you deal with failure?
It depends on the individual.
Yeah.
It depends on the individual's amount of, I'll say chutzpah or guts or courage or drive. It really depends on how much resiliency this individual has and how realistic the goal is.
Right.
See, some people set goals that may not be realistic for them during that time. So you have to be openly honest about your goal.
Right.
You have to be cognizant of your resources, with to make it. Excuse me, and you have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then you got to have that networking person. You have to have that person that's going to be honest with you and say, hey, this might not be for you.
Right.
You've lost $100,000 over 6 different ventures. It may be time to look into something else.
Right.
So you need that touch of realism along with the other factors that I've introduced in order to make a sound decision.
Right.
Don't just jump in the water before you test it
Yeah.
because you could get burnt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I would also say there's always a lesson to every failure, right? So almost that element of like having mentorship, part of that is like inviting feedback. You actually want to embrace feedback and embrace the fact that you're learning in this process.
Right.
And every time you fail, you're going to get better and better every time. So if you talk to a lot of these millionaires and billionaires, they'll tell you they lost,
hundreds of thousands.
Right.
That's correct.
Like, hundreds of businesses even, before they made their successful business.
Right.
And so sometimes even in those moments of failure, if you recognize that and know that it's not you, that it's just part of the process, you can keep going.
Right, definitely.
I'd use a quick example and then that's it. I lost money on the first probably 45 shows that I did. I didn't start, I've been doing this since 89. I didn't start making money till 99. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's 10 years of losing money before I received my first paycheck for what I do. 10 straight years of losing money and time. And so if you want it enough and you had the plan in place, it can happen. It can happen. Like you said, there's some like we both said earlier, there's some sacrifice that's going to have to happen.
Right.
And there's some self-talk and self-reevaluation that's going to need to take place.
Man, because I'm sure that's 10 years of, man, you just need to quit, man. You don't even need to do that. You wasting money, man.
Absolutely. I've had a couple of people tell me that. But had I stuck to their mode of thinking,
You wouldn't be where you are now.
I wouldn't be the number one step shows in the country.
Boom.
Bar
Go
none.
ahead.
Dawkins.
There you go. That's a boom. Yeah. You can't say anything after that.
Right? Drop the mic. Okay. What do you want to say to those who are experiencing being around those exhibiting signs of depression on what they can do to help the other person? So if I have a friend and they're showing all the signs, the bells and whistles, everything is going off that my friend is going through depression, how can I be a better friend? How can I support them? What is it that I can do to help them?
I mean, I would say listening is important. Really understanding what's going on. A lot of the times people think that the way somebody feels has to match their situation.
Right.
But you can be depressed even if you have the perfect job and the perfect house and the perfect car and the perfect partner. And so as the friend, it's important to recognize that that's still possible and get to the heart of what's going on inside.
Right.
You know, oftentimes there can be things that weren't dealt with a long time ago that are coming up again.
Yeah.
And so, so I do think referring to counseling is good, and just being one of the people that the person can rely on.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, and use that. I agree, and use the numbers. You know, the phone numbers. Reach out. If you ever feel like you're going through something that may be too much for you to bear, and you feel alone and have no resources, and you don't see anybody being able to help you or understand your unique situation, you do. As I said earlier, call up the Georgia Crisis Hotline, call up the help number that I mentioned earlier, and talk to someone. These people are paid professionals who get paid to sit and listen while you vent, help you process, help you come to a positive conclusion. So if you don't have anybody to talk to, know that there are people put in place specifically for you to vent.
Yeah.
Right.
And just also remember, even the things that your friend or family member may be saying that are harmful are symptoms of the actual depression. And it's not personal, even though it feels personal, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's something. When someone's going through depression and they begin to personally attack you, it's like, how do I not take offense to what they're saying when they're talking about me, but they're going through something, you know? And I think that definitely affects a lot of friendships if you allow it to.
Right.
You know, so we all have been that person where you sit there and you allow your friends to vent and vent and vent, and then they're good, but now you're feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, well,
you too
who
need
can I talk to now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, situations like that can definitely be challenging. And I always post about that on Facebook. Like, you know, who is listening to the strong one?
Right.
So, anyways, is there anything you guys want our audience to know before we go?
I don't know.
I like how they both looked at each other. You go first. Oh, you go first.
You know what
I mean, I do think you triggered something in me just now by saying the strong one.
Yeah.
Which is understanding that it's the myth of being the strong black woman or the strong black man, right? And so don't put that burden on yourself or anybody else, you know, and we all need help. We all need support.
Right.
So it's really important to embrace that.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to ask, and an excellent point, but I want to ask, did you mean in terms of just overall advice based on this topic, or did you mean was there anything we had coming up?
Oh,
I
no.
wasn't sure where you
Oh,
were
no,
going
it was
with
just
the
on this
question.
topic.
Okay, okay. Like I said, seek help.
Well, no. As far as anything that you want the audience to know, no, it can be about anything, really.
No, I've said everything. You know, if you're listening, wherever you are, who you are, if you do feel alone, know that you are not alone. Know that you are loved. Know that you are cared for. Know that your opinions matter to us. Your opinions matter to me. Your opinions matter to those that are listening. You are not alone, and you are supported. So I just want to let you guys know that. For me, love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Those who know me know that I speak positivity on stage because I try to live it in real life. So God bless you all. Shaheed the Swagnificent, National Step Show host and party MC. You can find me at Shaheed5783 at Instagram, or Dennis Shaheed Swagnificent Latimer on Facebook. And you can check out my YouTube clips as well. Hit me up. I'll give you the information, and let's all make moves together.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
And Dr. Turner, where can he find you at?
I'm on Psychology Today under Tamara Turner, and you can actually find other therapists as well as myself on the website, and you can send me an email or give me a call.
Okay.
Where can they find you? How about that?
Okay, well, I just tried to actually simplify where people can find me. If you go to www.simplybree.com, and that's with 2 E's, so simply is SIMPLEE, Bree, BREE.com, it will actually show you everything that I have going on. You click on the picture, and it will actually forward you over to that. So all of my shows, you can go there and find me, because I would go crazy trying to list everything right now.
I feel you.
So, before we actually take our final break, I do want to mention some things that are going on. Dr. Turner has a event called A Life Lived on Purpose, International and Meaningful Living. And this is a holistic health and wellness group for single Black women ages 35 and up. It will take place on Wednesdays from 6:30 p.m. to 7:45 p.m., March 4th through April 22nd. The address is 809 Church Street, and this is located in downtown Decatur. So you guys definitely check out the website as well. It's www.alifelivedonpurpose.com, and you will find out more information in regards to the activities, registration, and just more information about the program itself. Yes, Mr. Plug.
No problem, and I thank you. The ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated are having an HBCU college fair February 8th. That's, coming up. And it is from, let me make sure, because I just got this today. It is from 9:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's the ladies of the Upsilon Alpha Omega chapter, again, of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in Gwinnett County.
Awesome. All right, guys. This is Dear Love. I am your host, Simply Bree, and my beautiful Dr. Turner, handsome Mr. Dennis, and you are tuned into We Are We Next 595. We're going to take a quick break. Okay, no break. So, upcoming events that I can mention. As I stated, there are a lot of you guys like how I did that. As I mentioned, I do have some shows. So next show will be Sunday. You can find me on Simply Bree on Instagram. And so I will have the flyer up. It's going to be my interview for the Girls Who Brunch Tour Instagram Takeover. It takes place from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Tuesday is going to be the Truth Serum. It's Dear Love's Truth Serum, in which the topic is going to be on personalities and love languages. Do you know your partner's love language? You guys know Valentine's Day is right around the corner.
Oh boy.
Do not get your significant other something like candy or whatever when they may just want your quality time. So let's talk about that. And then, of course, Wednesdays, you're going to be in the basement with myself, Simply Bree. We have Main Event, we have Ashley, and we have Energy God. So that's from 7:30 to 9 p.m. So you guys can contact the show, ibnxradio.com. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, IBNX Radio or IBNX Radio Network. Check us out on Instagram, IBNX Radio, and make sure you come back next week, because if you don't, I'm going to cry. Okay, I won't cry, but just come back, because you'll love it, okay? So thank you guys for tuning in, and have a wonderful evening.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
IBNX Radio.